me. I'm just sitting here waiting for someone to click on this video and... Oh, shit. Well, how about that? All right, then. Leaping into action at Mark. Phil, did we mark it? Let's go.
Say my name.
Jam, but you just become best friends. Yup.
I love the poorly educated.
All right, you're here. Phil's there, and you know what? I'm here. That means let's get to it. So we're talking some books, huh? This is Jim Dempsey's working library, the thinking shelf on my library, as opposed to books that I might just be reading for some, because here's the deal. So my attention was directed to this video by our good friend Buff Metal, and I'd be like, now that could be some interesting viewing. And in many cases, I might expect to just be, oh, this is going to be a straight easy rag. But it was a pretty passable list. I might throw some shade at it for a bonus segment here in this very thread. But first, let us do a little building on that topic. I'm going to return to the dead horse for another good kick. Draw a little content from that same font. Because, I like what he does there with that, just what I've seen of him. It seems like he talks a little bit about, just philosophy and stuff. And I'd be like, now that, alright, yeah, that's interesting to me. A lot more so than some of these fucking clowns. Now, I have about a baker's dozen, maybe 14 selections to cover, so we may have to do this in segments because some of these may demand a little bit of further insight. But let's do a quick overview of some of the broad, the founding selections, because the shelf really kicked off with a couple of books that I paired together and was like, now these books seem just like an interesting compendium to me. And they are, together, The Passion of the Western Mind by Richard Tarnas, a professor from some university in California, although not necessarily University of California system. And this one is A History of Knowledge by Charles Van Doren, who is, let's see here from the back, Associate Director of the Institute of Philosophical Research in Chicago. Mind you, that data is as of probably about 25 years ago or so. But at any rate, these just together provide kind of a nice little overview summarizing of a history of philosophy and thought. So, for instance, from the back of this one here, dust off my cold read voice. Here are the great minds of Western civilization and their pivotal ideas, from Plato to Hegel, from Augustine to Nietzsche, from Copernicus to Freud. Richard Tarnas performs the near miracle of describing profound philosophical concepts simply, but without simplifying them. 10 years in the making, and already hailed as the classic of The Passion of the Western Mind, is truly a complete liberal education in a single volume. You know that means that this was written for students in Professor Tarnas's class, and he either is that good of a writer or he had a professional write his blurb. But yeah, let's do a quick check on the contents here, actually, just for a... So, Chapter 1, The Greek Worldview. Chapter 2, The Transformation of the Classical Era, Cross Currents of the Hellenistic Matrix. Chapter 3, the Christian worldview. Chapter 4, the transformation of the medieval era. Chapter 5, the modern worldview. Chapter 6, the transformation of the modern era. The changing of the image of the human from Copernicus through Freud. And then 7, the epilogue, post-Copernican double-blind, knowledge and the unconscious, the evolution of worldviews, etc. And yeah, in here we cover things such as, let's see, critical scholasticism and Occam's razor, the philosophical revolution, Bacon, Descartes. That's got to be Francis Bacon, I assume, and not Roger. And there's some in here about dualistic Christianity. I bet that chapter would really appeal to a David Tibet. Confusing my first names now. Good Lord. Now we move on to this one here. History of Knowledge. This is a compendium of everything that humankind has thought, invented, created, considered, and perfected from the beginning of civilization into the 21st century. Massive in scope and yet totally accessible. Yeah, it's going to be a very slim overview in that regard. I read Karen Armstrong's biography of Muhammad, and I was like, she's got some fascinating source material to be so detailed about these sort of things. But whatever. On that note, so this, I felt, made a nice addendum to this little duel right here. I had this couplet, and then I tucked this into it, forbidden knowledge. And this is a deeply learned, highly intelligent, and beautifully written book, per Saul Bellow. Guy's got a blurb from Harold Bloom, as well as Saul Bellow. So, subtitled From Prometheus to Pornography. And this is just basically like, kind of describing, well, as the title says, like, forbidden knowledge. And so we're talking shit like a lot of, Gnosticism and Hermeticism and stuff like that's going to enter into it. And yeah, it's going to cover things like, like unlawful carnal knowledge, etc. Now, this is not something that the book itself was deeply influential, but just books and learning and just knowledge and just general personal, deeply held, long-standing biases kind of all inform this. So, one of the fundamental facts of my life is a deep skepticism about the medical industry overall. And it's not a wholesale, like, oh, it's all a sham kind of thing. It's just a very deep and far-reaching skepticism. And I'd be like, well, lifespans and statistics such as do indicate for, certain progress is being made. And my own personal anecdotal experience says that modern dentistry from 20 and especially from 40 years ago is a goddamn miracle. So yeah, like, it's not a wholesale skepticism, but it is a deep one. And forbidden knowledge is just... So, think about it like this. A lot of the medical procedures that you had like 20 and 40 years ago, you don't get them anymore. So the established things are not still being done because they're all going on with these new and novel things. And in a lot of cases, it's just as well because the older ones are like objectively terrible. And the new and novel ones, you're like, all right, well, at least we don't know. We don't know yet how they might be terrible. But we are talking about an industry, and it is an industry, but like a field of knowledge where it's almost still within living memory. Like, there's a really good likelihood that you, just as I, probably had a great-grandparent that was alive and well before medicine in general realized washing your hands is a good thing. Because Yeah, like, let me do the math on that. My grandfather was born in 1917. So I'm going to go ahead and speculate that my great-grandfather reaches back pretty close to when they were killing Garfield by, like, sticking their bare hands up in his bullet holes. So, yeah. Now, if you think that modern medicine is, like, the hottest shit, as opposed to just myself, where I'm going to be like, there's some things that are really hot shit, but overall, like, we still don't know what we don't know, then I would invite you to consider the female orgasm. And just muse on that next time that you're thinking anything about, like, how miraculous modern medicine is. Just keep that thought in your mind. The female orgasm. Alright, like, I've seen all sorts of medical I've seen, like, just, I've seen the same stuff that you've seen in terms of, like, health, biology, etc. I'm sure. If you've read a billion textbooks on the topic. I'm not trained in biology, but God knows I had to take it a couple times, It's one of those fucking requirements in Seattle schools, like biology, so they make you do it freshman year. If you fail, you got to do it again in 10th grade. I've also seen more than one, and mind you, not that many more than one, but more than one, and I'd be like, I don't think they really know what they're doing. I think they're just kind of like sketching from memory and being like, that's the labia, there's a clitoris in there somewhere, like, yeah, well, so it feels like it's going to look like this, kind of. I'm just saying. So, but here's the other side of it. I really do think if most people in general, like as a broader thing, like the majority of people fully realized the extent to which modern medicine is us as the guinea pigs for modern medicine, they would be similarly skeptical to myself, and in that situation, medicine would advance at the pace that it did from like time immemorial until well into the 19th century or so, when it pretty much consisted of like, you gotta rob the fucking graves to like cut the corpses up to find anything out, because because that's how people felt about medicine and doctors and so forth. And corollary to all of that, I do think most people probably aren't really fully fundamentally aware of just how much of modern medicine we owe to Nazi death camps. Like, just how much of what we know about modern medicine we owe to Nazi death camps. Because, I'm just saying, so, there is this meme that's going out there. It's a meme because people are repeating it all over, which means it's mimetic, right? It's a meme. Someone said it, and now everyone's saying it. Not everyone's saying it, but, a lot of people are saying it to each other. People are not seeking truth. They are seeking narrative. And we'll unpack that at a little greater depth a little later on in the library when we cover the idea that truth is just, it is something a little bigger than you can hold in two hands. So the thing about that statement, it's true, but it's not true about other people. It's true about people. So it's one of those things that becomes a meme because it is a profound, cogent statement about human nature that you can then say and think you're saying it about other people and feel superior to them, because unlike the person saying it, most people aren't seeking truth. They're seeking narrative. Now, narrative is the form in which humans relay truth through generations. Thus, people aren't seeking truth, they're seeking narrative, right? But it doesn't mean any of us are seeking truth and then the rest of those mouth breathers are just seeking narrative. It's just a statement of fact. But you can wield it against other people. That's why it's a successful meme. Because all the best ones, the ones that get repeated, are the ones that you can feel really good about yourself when you're saying them. It's a fact. Keep that in mind at all times and see if it does not bear true. But yeah, we're talking about forbidden knowledge, medicine, right? Like, so the narrative just is that. Like, Nazis, all bad. Doctors, all good. You know, like, that's how these narratives form, right? And you don't necessarily buy into them, per se. That's why you're interested in intellectual conversation, and that's why we're talking about books, right? Literature, heady stuff. But, so yeah, what are we at here? We covered these first three, right? This was like, this was the foundation of the library, and I feel like, what, 15 minutes? That's a good starting point. Let's recap these really quick, and then we'll come back for a part two, and further on and again. But yeah, so, The Passion of the Western Mind by Richard Tarnas, Professor, I suppose, Richard Tarnas, and A History of Knowledge. And these were just books where I'd be like, these are really good things to just kind of give you an overview. Like, okay, so what is the difference between Plato and Aristotle and Socrates, etc., etc.? Answer, not a whole lot, but about 20 years each. And yeah, I guess there's a lot of difference between Plato and Aristotle, but in the end, like, you get more into that than you do into this because, hey, look at the relative size. And then also this one's trying to be like, oh, and here's Confucius too. Quick fun fact, side note, Confucius is the Latin of Kung Fu Zu. So, yeah, Kung Fu and Confucius, same Chinese words if I am not reading that incorrectly. And then we, on the topic of Eastern mysticism, we threw in forbidden knowledge to, you know, kind of get the shady side of all this. And this was like just, I had these 3 volumes together, and I'd be like, this is a really interesting little working library about, like, just, you know, a little history of, and so this was like kind of my compendium history. I've always said about history, about politics, about the news, about anything, don't get one source. Find at least 3 sources all saying different things about the same thing, and then you'll get a really good idea about the thing that you're trying to learn about, right? So yeah, this was my little, you know, and then we started to add to it. We'll add to that in next volumes. But in the meantime, that was it for this one. So yeah, Dempsey's gonna dip out, and yeah, we're done here. Thank you for watching. Make sure to catch part 2 and beyond.